I'm gonna update a video I did a while back because I went back and listened to it last night and it's not a very good video of the reality that I'm trying to share. And only those with eyes to see and ears to hear are gonna accept this and be blessed by it because others automatically are gonna say, "Oh, he's gonna be talking about that serpent seed again." No, God teaches us about the serpent seed. But there's a little known thing to those of us who see these things all the way back in Genesis 1:11 and 1:12 that documents or shows us God's way of teaching us that all the trees he created were male in these two verses at least. And they all had the ability to reproduce from their fruit with seeds in it. Now, when Eve partook of that fruit, she didn't literally become pregnant by the fruit she ate. It was God's way of explaining to us, that is to say, those of us who will dig it out, that that is absolutely what took place. Now, let's just get right into this. I highlighted the Hebrew. I'll read the Hebrew and break that down because the King James didn't do a good job with the Hebrew. And I have a second witness to this from another biblical Hebrew scholar. So, and the Bible says you get two witnesses, right? So why not? Genesis 1:11, and God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind." There you go. They're masculine. That's 100% correct in the Hebrew. The next part is the part that's a little suspect. Whose seed is in itself upon the earth, and it was so. I'll go down to the Hebrew where it's highlighted. The phrase is asher zar o vo, which should read which who. Let's go with which his seed is in him, not whose seed is in itself. Which his seed is in him. The is implied upon the earth, and it was so. And God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, which his seed is in him upon the earth, and it was so." I'll go to the next verse, because this exact phrase appears in the next verse. Verse 12, "And the earth brought forth grass, and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit whose seed was in itself," same phrase here, "after his kind, and God saw that it was good." The Hebrew is asher zaro vo, which his seed is in him after his kind. And God saw that it was good. So what is this saying in conclusion? It's saying that the fruit trees that God created were male, and they had fruit with seeds in it for reproducing, for reproduction. This is God's way of explaining how these trees reproduce. So, and again, Eve didn't literally eat fruit and get pregnant, but she partook of his fruit that had its seed in him, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and became pregnant with Cain. And we already know that. But this is telling us that these trees were male, they had fruit with seed in him after his kind. Now let's get the second witness. And I actually have an apple tree in my backyard that has something fascinating with it. And it's freezing here, but I'm going to go get a picture and I'll put it at the end. But let's go to the second witness here. This is called the mechanical translation that was translated by a biblical Hebrew scholar by the name of Jeff Benner. And I'm just going to read his translation, and you're going to see that it exactly lines up with mine or what I just laid out. And Elohim and God said, the land will make grass sprout. This is verse 11. Herbs producing seeds, trees of produce making produce to his kind, which his seed is in him upon the land, and he existed so. Now that translation is 100% correct. It's a concrete translation, but it's absolutely correct. And he is a brilliant Hebrew scholar, biblical Hebrew. Verse 12, and the land brought out grass, herbs sowing seeds to his kind, and trees making produce, fruit, which has his seed in him to his kind. And Elohim, God the Father, saw that it was good, or functional. So what is this conclusion here? The conclusion is that all the trees that God created have the ability to reproduce from their fruit with seeds in it. It's an analogy. It's symbolic of reproduction. God is letting us know that the tree, later on, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil had fruit, and from that fruit there were seeds. And from the seeds, reproduction occurred. Not literally, again. Eve didn't eat a piece of fruit and become pregnant. This is God's way of showing us that that is 100% what took place. Now I'm going to go out in my backyard and freeze, and through the power of editing, I'll show you what happens when apples fall to the ground. Because we know they like to use that apple story, so why not? It's absolutely freezing out here. This is my old apple tree. I got a car going by, of course. But when the apples fall on the ground, seeds in those apples reproduce. Just like the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So we see here, and I don't know how well this is going to record, and I only have a limited amount of time, but we see here, as I got a little bit of this video that the wind drowned out, God is teaching us that all the trees had the ability to reproduce from their fruit. It's symbolic thereof, or it's an analogy. Again, Eve didn't become literally pregnant from eating fruit. She became pregnant by Satan, or the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, who had fruit with seeds in it after his kind, and Cain was the result of it. Just pretty awesome stuff here.